It's Wednesday, March 19. In the headlines, opposition leader Mark Golding vows more housing access for low-income earners. The People's National Party files lawsuit over Portmore's parish status. In business news, Jamaica offer may be upsized. Regionally, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Stuart Young announces election date. And in sports, Grace Kennedy increases investment in ISA champs over $185 million. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The opposition leader, Mark Golding, used his contribution to the national budget debate to push a raft of measures. Among them is a promise to make home ownership more affordable, with key policies aimed at young and low-income buyers. Also, a $1 billion loan facility to help first-time home buyers get on the property ladder.
Using those NHT resources to enable young persons under 35 years of age to access $500,000 towards their deposit once they have been an NHT contributor for 2 years or more.
Mr. Golding is also vowing to end the $11 billion annual transfer from the National Housing Trust to the Consolidated Fund, a policy introduced under a previous People's National Party government and continued by the Holness administration. Another key proposal absorbing insurance payments on NHT loans for low-income earners. And to help those struggling to save a deposit, Mr. Golding is pushing a rent-to-own program.
A person earning in the informal economy who can't produce a payslip, but who wants to buy an NHT house, will be able to go into possession as a tenant, paying a monthly rent equivalent to a mortgage loan payment.
That's right.
And by establishing their ability to pay over a relatively short period of time, they will then be deemed eligible to access the mortgage loan from the NHT to buy the house. Having established proof of payment, they don't need to produce the payslip.
He says these policies will open more doors for Jamaicans to achieve their dreams of owning a home. The People's National Party has made good on its pledge to challenge the government's decision to designate Portmore as Jamaica's 15th parish, citing concerns that the move could violate the country's constitution. Opposition leader Mark Golding addressed the matter while making his contribution to the 2025-2026 budget debate.
I urge the Prime Minister to ensure that as part of his legacy to Jamaica, this inconceived legislation is not brought into effect. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, yesterday, we filed suit in the Constitutional Court to strike down the legislation. We regard the pursuit of this legislation as a dangerous affront to Jamaica's democracy, which must be vigorously resisted by all lawful means at our disposal.
Despite warnings from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, about potential constitutional breaches, the government used its majority in the legislature to pass the legislation. The ECJ had previously warned Parliament and the Ministry of Local Government in a letter that proposed Portmore parish boundary could conflict with the Constitution, specifically a provision stating in a letter to the clerk, quote, "The boundary of a constituency shall not cross the boundary of a parish as defined by the Counties and Parishes Act or any law amending or replacing it," end quote. The PMP's latest legal challenge follows a history of constitutional disputes, including a 2017 ruling where the Constitutional Court declared the National Identification and Registration Act unconstitutional, bringing an end to a lawsuit led by opposition Member of Parliament Julian Robinson. Additionally, the PNP had previously failed in its challenge of a constitutional amendment that raised the retirement age for the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Auditor General. Opposition leader Mark Golding says the government is using economic statistics to mask its failures. Speaking in the 2025-2026 budget debate on Tuesday, Mr. Golding said figures like record low unemployment do not reflect the real struggles of everyday Jamaicans.
Jamaica has statistically low overall unemployment numbers at 3.5%. However, Jamaica still suffers from chronic unemployment, low wages, and unstable incomes. According to the World Bank, 50% of non-agricultural jobs are informal, with no benefits or security.
He says many Jamaicans are struggling due to food insecurity, underemployment, and low economic growth. He accuses the government of selling off national assets to fund the budget, citing securitization of revenue from Norman Manley International Airport. Mr. Golding warns that more of such deals could be coming in the next budget.
The budget for this fiscal year now ending, 2024-25, was funded by over 70 billion of non-tax revenues, which came from the sale of 12 years of future income. That meant that what is to be earned over 12 years from Jamaica's future revenues from the Norman Manley International Airport was sold, and sold so that that money could be spent now. How was the money used? To finance various recurrent expenses, a one-time so-called reverse income tax credit, 1 year of some other tax relief that is going to be an ongoing annual cost to the budget, and some other expenditures. None of these will have a lasting beneficial impact on the future of this country.
The Electoral Office of Jamaica, EOJ, has confirmed that the next voters list will be published on May 31. The EOJ says eligible Jamaicans should register for the next publication of the National Voters List before Monday, March 31. Only registered voters will be able to cast their vote on Election Day. Persons aged 18 years and older who are Jamaican citizens or Commonwealth citizens residing in Jamaica for at least 12 consecutive months are therefore being urged to apply by the deadline. Those already on the voters list are reminded not to reapply, but to request a renewal if their voter ID card has expired. Registration is now open for vendors interested in plying their wares in the Yalas market in St. Thomas. Some vendors have already moved into the market but have registered their concerns about unsatisfactory amenities. During a recent tour of the facility, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie says he's encouraged by the vendors' cooperation thus far.
There's a nail tech, there is 4 butchers, we have haberdashery, and other persons. So the registration process will commence, but I want to make it clear that this is not the end of the process. We're going to be facilitating the vendors in the market until we would have completed the assessment and the budgeting for the renovation of the market.
He says renovation is slated to happen this year.
So the engagement has started, and we will continue the engagement, and I am quite sure at the end of the day, I am hoping that before Christmas, we will have a new look Dallas market to benefit the entire community and the vendors who ply their trade in the market.
According to the minister, a survey has been completed by the Social Development Commission to ensure that the vendors' and consumers' concerns are taken into consideration.
This is not the end of the process. This is the next phase of the process. And the intention of the government and the municipal corporation is to engage the vendors at every stage of the development. So we're not going to just put anything here and say to them, you must accept that.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, here to bring you the stories shaping the financial world and guiding your journey to smarter business decisions. Let's dive into the top headlines. The Trans-Jamaican Highway additional public offer by the Jamaican government closed March 18th. However, it could be upsized if the initial offer is oversubscribed. This offer contained just over 1 billion shares for sale to the general public at $3.601 or US 0.0228 cents per ordinary share. In addition, some 700,280,000 reserve shares were being offered at $3.60 or US 0.0228 cents per ordinary share to the reserved share applicants. The upsize will be offered to both the general public and the reserved share applicants on a pro rata basis. Lead broker NCB Capital Markets noted that Trans-Jamaica Highway's offer for sale opened 2 weeks prior on March 4. JMMB Securities also served as a selling agent. The Trans-Jamaica Highway asset has proven to be a strong cash flow investment with growing dividends. Trans-Jamaica Highway operates the Highway 2000 East-West Corridor, a vital artery connecting major urban centers under a long-term concession agreement. National Commercial Bank has launched a $1 billion growth fund for SMEs, under which a secured loan will attract an interest rate of 9.75% per annum and an unsecured loan of 15.99% per annum rate. The bank also recently cut all its lending rates to the SME sector by 0.25%. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica is reporting that the country's inflation rate, which is changes in consumer prices, dipped to negative 0.9 percentage points during the month of February. This is based on lower food, non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity, gas, and fuel prices. Statin also says the point-to-point rate, the rate from February 2024 to February 2025, fell to 4.4% from 4.7% from January 2024 to January 2025. For the trading period ending March 18, 2025, these were the most actively traded stocks. Advertising and real estate holding company Kentire Holdings Jamaica Limited with 5,094,989 units traded, representing 21.21% of market sales volume. Online education provider One-on-One Educational Services Limited with 4,519,366 units traded, representing 18.81% of market sales volume. Alternative energy provider Wigton Energy Limited with 4,271,696 units traded, representing 17.78% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the forex market rates set by the Bank of Jamaica. On March 18, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $55.14 million purchased and US $68.08 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned $1.69 per dollar, selling the US at $157.53 and buying the US at $155.84. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders 98 cents per transaction, with selling at $110.03 and buying at $109.05. The British pound yielded Forex traders $8.35 in profits, with selling at $205.57 and buying at $197.22. For our credit report tip of the day, if you owe more than 300,000 Jamaican dollars and feel like there's no way out, bankruptcy could be the financial reset you need. Here's a few ways that bankruptcy can help you regain control of your financial life and position yourself for success over the next 7 years. First, it's an opportunity to rebuild your credit. Although bankruptcy will appear on your credit report, it also gives you a chance to rebuild. Over the next 7 years, you can demonstrate responsible financial behavior by paying bills on time, using secured credit cards, and gradually improving your credit score. Second, it provides a legal framework for financial recovery. Rather than struggling to repay debt on your own, bankruptcy provides a structured, court-supervised plan to help you regain stability. This allows you to reset your finances with legal protection. Now, when we talk about financial recovery and resilience, here's the truth. Financial resilience isn't about having a flawless plan. It's about taking bold steps forward, even when the path looks different than you expected. The right mentor can help a woman over the age of 45 break through fear, embrace progress over perfection, and build the financial future you deserve. Here are a few ways you can access mentorship to break free from perfectionism and build the financial resilience you deserve. First, leverage LinkedIn for virtual mentorship. Follow and engage with financial experts, coaches, and business leaders. Many professionals offer free insights and opportunities to connect. Second, attend mastermind groups for business and finance. Surround yourself with women who are also on a path to financial growth. Mastermind groups offer collective problem solving and mentorship. And that wraps up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, reminding you that every financial decision is a step toward your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay informed, and keep striving for success. See you soon.
In regional news, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Stuart Young has declared April 28 as the date for the general election in the Twin Island Republic. The details from TTT News.
Trinidad and Tobago will head to the polls on Monday, April 28th. A media release from the office of the Prime Minister indicates Prime Minister Stuart Young has advised President Christine Kangaloo to dissolve Parliament with effect from midnight on Tuesday, 18th March, in accordance with Section 68 of the Constitution. The Prime Minister has also advised the President that in accordance with Section 33 of the Representation of the People Act, Chapter 201, writs of election for the 2025 general elections are to be issued on the 18th of March 2025. Friday, 4th April has been fixed as nomination day and Monday, 28th April as polling day.
The Inter-American Development Bank has signed a U.S. $150 million investment agreement with the Massey Group. This investment is meant to facilitate Massey's expansion and sustainable growth, strategically targeting food security, trade, and climate change.
According to Managing Director and Chief Investment Officer of IDB Invest, Marisol Alvarenga, this long-term collaboration is about supporting people and tackling those real issues facing the region.
By joining forces with Massey, a leader deeply rooted in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, we're taking concrete steps to address the challenge heads-on.
Responsible for the Sustainable Development Goals, public sector investment programs and social sector programs, Minister of Planning and Development Penelope Beckles said, increased private sector investments and expansions will lead to significant and sustainable benefits for the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Currently, the IDB Invest portfolio in Trinidad and Tobago includes 5 operations, with companies such as Home Mortgage Bank, Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company Limited, the Trinidad Tissues Limited. With today's signing, the total value of this portfolio will rise to $307 million.
Highlighting their commitment to sustainability and inclusive growth, Massey's Deputy Group Chief Executive Officer and Group Chief Financial Officer, James McClatchy, said this move will positively impact the Caribbean region.
I think the simple way to think about this is, quite honestly, we believe that we can be a very high-impact organization with our communities, our employees, our shareholders, and still be a high-performing company. There is no conflict in being a performing company and a major, impactful, and contributor to society. And that is our plan.
According to Integrated Retail Profile CEO at Massey, Ambika Mongru, this IDB investment facility represents more than financial capital. She said it is an investment in possibility, people, technology, and infrastructure that will define the future of retail and distribution in the Caribbean. Jason John, TTT News.
At the 69th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, Dr. Kona Husbands of Guyana's Ministry of Human Services outlined key initiatives aimed at tackling poverty and enhancing social protection for women. Speaking at the UN headquarters, she emphasized the government's strategic efforts to improve service delivery and create lasting changes for women across the country.
In today's world of overlapping crisis, climate change and armed conflict, and pandemics, social protection systems must be resilient and adaptable to meet the needs of women and girls who are affected. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security quickly adapted by introducing emergency relief packages, including direct cash transfers and food assistance to support vulnerable women and children. This highlights the need for flexible social protection systems that can address shocks and ensure continuity of services. Gender-responsive programs focus on addressing specific needs of women and girls. This includes ensuring that social protection systems recognize the unpaid care work that women perform and that they provide support for women's economic empowerment. Key stakeholders, including the UN, governments, and civil society, we must work together to ensure that social protection systems are impactful and well-resourced. In Guyana, the government has partnered with civil society organizations to conduct community outreaches and awareness sensitization campaigns, ensuring that women and girls are aware of their rights to social protection and how to access these services. Government has also introduced measures to streamline service delivery and ensure that women in remote and rural areas are not excluded from critical support. An example is the direct cash transfer program, which benefits all of our citizens. The efforts of the government provide a strong foundation for continued progress, but it must be emphasized that the sharing of the global financial and resources with lower and middle income countries will lead to a more sustainable, gender-responsive system that addresses both the immediate and the long-term needs of women and girls, assuring their path to poverty. Chair, our statements here must generate renewed, collective, and targeted actions that positively impact on the lives of millions of women and girls who continue to suffer globally.
In sports, we begin with athletics. Grace Kennedy, the title sponsor of the Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association, ISSA, Boys and Girls Athletics Championships, has revealed that its total investment for this year's event will surpass $185 million. Alongside an estimated $104 million in cash sponsorship, the groups Grace Foods, Western Union, and First Global Brands will contribute an additional $81 million to the local economy through their various champs-related initiatives. In other sporting news, opposition leader Mark Golding has vowed that a future government under his leadership will take decisive action to recover funds lost in the Stocks and Security Limited fraud scandal, SSL, including those belonging to sprint legend Usain Bolt. While making his contribution to the 2025-2026 budget debate on Tuesday, he declared that if the People's National Party wins the next general election, he will establish an inquiry into the now-defunct SSL.
I commit to establishing a commission of inquiry into that matter, focusing also on the regulatory history and how it is that a licensed institution was able to carry down so many investors for so long. It is unprecedented in Jamaica. This was nothing to do with the economic issues of facing other dealers or the market generally. This was a specific problem in that institution. It should have been addressed and it wasn't.
The SSL scandal, which came to light in early 2023, saw millions of dollars allegedly misappropriated from clients, including Bolt, whose account reportedly lost $12.7 million. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.